I don't know how people would feel about a realtor with hand and neck tattoos. So
I think in this day and age, they would accept it. I mean, it's 2026.
You got to
Yeah,
show off the
yeah.
guns, man. I tell you, it was my mother did not see Beth's tattoos for the first 15 years of our marriage. Growing up, my mother told me that I would go to hell if I ever got a tattoo. And so, yeah, you can imagine my mother's dismay when she found out Beth was a Harley riding hoodlum gal, right? So, yeah, but no, dude, that's the coolest thing in the world to have tattoos now. I'm kind of jealous of it.
Well, I know a guy if you want one.
Yeah, Dave, we can get that fixed pretty quickly.
So yeah, I love it. I know several.
Right. Let's start with the tattoo with the hairline. That would be great. I'd appreciate it. All right, let's go.
Charlie, you can keep whatever part of this preamble you want. So from Noah's, Noah's whatever through here. Who knows what's going to make it on the YouTube and Sterling at this point in our session. So it's a pleasure joining our train. If that wasn't a hook for a YouTube long form, I have no idea what would be, to be honest with you. I mean, so let's see how this goes. Anyway, so we're jumping back into our module about the 1 through 5 in the business plan. And I was getting some grief from Nate when we ended our last teaching session about doing the same old things and getting the same old results. And isn't it just, insanity, Jared, to keep doing it? Isn't that the definition of insanity, Jared? Is what you're trying to be nice about, Nate? If you're saying, like, isn't this the definition of insanity, Jared? When you keep saying do the same old things as everybody else, it's the same BS that we hear. We do it over and over and over again. Why would this night be any different than any other night? As a group of people just asked themselves last week. So, Nate, I think that's a really great question. And here's where I'm coming at it from both a practical and a fundamental aspect. And this session might even go into next Tuesday, because I really have been thinking about this a lot over the last 2 or 3 days, and I wanted to address it because I think I was right in the way that I addressed in our last session, and I'm not going to retract anything I said. I just had 2 or 3 days to kind of think about this a little bit more and wanted to just bring it up as part of this session right here. And this goes to what we're talking about right now on this slide, where we left in our slide about talking about these skills. Right, making calls, door knocking, doing the same old things that Gary Keller used to say 30 years ago. And as you might accuse me of being a Keller kid, aren't you just teaching the Keller program? And I think, Nate, it comes from a fundamental, both the practical and the fundamental view here. And the practical view is, I think you need to ask yourself, do real estate agents, do we have a part in the real estate process, in the real estate transaction processes of the future?
Yes.
Okay. And so if you assume that in 10 years, you're going to have an AI brokerage out there that can automate everything via AI, who knows whether or not it'll be licensed? I'm sure NAR and the legal people, there's going to be a whole litigation about what AI can do and not do with respect to legal documents and advisories. This is a whole unlitigated territory right now. We're going to have to get through it, but you got to assume over the next 10 to 15 years, it's going to get figured out. So I'd say we probably have a 3 to 5 year window before AI really starts to compete with us in terms of like being able to execute and advise on legal documents. So if you assume in 10 years that we would be then competing side by like 1-to-1 with AI agents, literally, then if you believe human agents still have a point in the process, the question you got to ask yourself is why?
It really comes down to relationships. Until AI can really manage a relationship for an actual individual or take place of that human connection, the agent will always have some level of importance in the real estate transaction.
I agree with you directionally. I want to revise what you're saying. Some humans will value human connection because a lot of humans, and you're already seeing it, a lot of humans will actually be like prefer AI connection that can read them and be a sycophant, and they would prefer a cheaper discount experience through an AI agent versus a human connection. So I think you guys say like, okay, well, Jared, in the world of the future, when an AI agent is literally competing against me for my leads, I want to work with those people who value human connection and not just like an empathetic relationship, because you're already seeing humans have relationships with their AI. They go out to phone. Aren't you already seeing tables for one with like the phone thing? And I think I'm seeing this crap, right? I think that's kind of crazy. But like
there was
mirroring these AI bots that they make.
But like they have the box, and they have I think rooms and bars where it's like a table for one, where you can like put your phone right here and like look at it, so you can go on a date with your. It's like a whole thing, you know. And so Jen's laughing, right?
I'm not laughing because there's a bar that I know of in Vegas that does that exact thing. It's basically dates for you create an AI avatar to put on your phone, and it's basically an AI avatar bot, and it sits on your phone across from you, and you have an elegant dinner. There's also case studies right now that are showing up everywhere. Noah said people trying to get married to their AIs, trying to have actual real relationships, marriage, like the whole nines, because people their brains are starting to feel like they're real on the other side of the screen. It's creepy.
Yeah, and I'm like, one of the things I'm working on right now and picking back up this quarter with, I really want to get Pearson done by the end of second quarter. But the other thing I want to get done by the end of second quarter is an auto AI agent that responds to all of our lead campaigns and nurtures leads for all you guys. Because like it can send out texts, it can send out emails, and it can read the campaigns, it can read your messaging, it already knows like how you message, and it can extract your personality types and like try to guess some highest conversion rate. So I think in 5 years, you're going to see a segment of the human population that will never come back to human connection. You're going to see a segment that is open to either is indifferent, I would say, between AI and human connection as whatever is the most value oriented human.
Well, and think about this too. In 10 years, AI and robotics are going to combine by then.
Total, 100%.
That takes on a whole new thing when it comes to that. And if you have an AI robot that looks, sounds, and feels human, that right there changes our ball game quickly.
Did you ever see Westworld on HBO? It's like that. To not think that won't be in our lifetimes, right? Is a little crazy. I think to not put that as like now on the scale of possibility, like that kind of realism. But at least in the next 5 years, you're probably not going to get there. Maybe you do, but like the robots would be rudimentary. But you're 100% right. Either way, you're going to be conventional robots, right? So you're going to have human robot. You're going to have human open to whatever. I just want the best service, best value. And you're probably going to have humans that distrust this whole thing and are more value of human connection kind of thing. And so the value of in real estate in the future is one where you have those people, you're serving those people who value human connection. And you're also valuing and you're going with the consumer who values human empathy, I guess, or a human steward versus an AI steward as they navigate a real estate process. Most likely professionals who are referring, like they're not going to refer over to robots because like a robot isn't accountable to a professional the way you are necessarily. And also people who you build great relationships with. And, you know, commissions are probably going to come down because robots will do it cheaper and they can do it 24/7 and you can't. And, you know, but we're going to be able to manage more because we're also going to have access to technology that allows us to leverage ourselves more efficiently. And so it's just going to be a race kind of thing. And so Nate, I guess no doomsday here. It's just, this is where the market is probably going to go. And so if you think about like why I say, why are we doing this stuff from 30 years ago? It's because you're never going to get back the people who don't value human connection. You know, the only way you're going to get business, in my opinion, in the future is by having that human connection. That is your only, in my opinion, advantage over an AI robot. It's just being human. And so when I say go grab coffee, and I'm challenging, and Noah is now pulling up a tracker for our team every single day about setting at least one coffee appointment a day. It's just to go continue to have that human connection and make sure that you're building it and doing it. It really doesn't have anything to do with having leads. The leads are going to come because you're going to do the right thing and that'll come up, and you guys are all successful salespeople. But it's like you just got to maintain that connection. And if you're not making calls, if you're not doing the open houses, if you're not face to face, if you're not doing the old school stuff, then you can't do that. And so I'm just saying, like, we got to do the old school stuff with like a new school spin, and make sure that we're doing the old school stuff at the highest level, because most of the market isn't even doing it right now. Half the remaining market is trying to figure out how AI can automate it for them anyway, which defeats the purpose broadly of the whole thing, the whole exercise, right? And then the rest of the people don't even, and then the rest of that, so let's say 25% of people you might be competing against, 90% aren't even doing it at a high level. They're using the old scripts. Hey, who do you know from church, school, or work, or looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? And I'm telling you guys to be the top 5% of real estate agents who are just like, hey, can we grab a cup of coffee? And now you can be the top 1% if you're like, hey, by the way, I got this HVAC guy I got a special for. Oh, and by the way, can we get a cup of coffee? Because I want to talk to you about this event we're hosting in a couple of weeks. Now no one can touch you. Right. And so my goal here, frankly, I guess, is to help you guys elevate your game, because I think it's the old school stuff that's going to help you build a business of the future, or at least maintain a business of the future. And I could be wrong. But I feel like that's kind of what we need to do. So
I think you're very 100% right. 90% anyway. Yeah. I think that there are going to be segments of the population that will always have that pushback, mainly Gen Xers and older, right? But right now, like there's an article from Fortune about Gen Z and millennials and even Gen Alpha now, where they're turning to AI as their partner in crime, partner in life. It was in September, I got it pulled up here. 80% of Gen Z and millennials are turning to AI for financial advice. And let's face it, this article was from September 24th. In the grand scheme of things, ChatGPT people were just getting their toes wet, right? In September. Mm-hmm. Fast forward 6 months later, where we're at today, 7 months later, everybody's using it. So if 80% of Gen Z and millennials are using it, I know I've used it for financial advice. I'm using it every single day and cross-referencing it on 2 or 3 different platforms, right? So yeah, I think that ultimately that's where it's at. But I think salespeople will be salespeople always. I think that there's a magnetic attraction to that human connection, to where, yeah, the AI might start controlling maybe 80% of that transaction, maybe even 90%, but there's always going to be that 10%. And if that's true, and we only have that 10%, where level is that? And does it devalue the real estate agent ultimately, right? Are they going to end up being just door openers? So they'll be here, but to what level, we don't know. And again, it really comes down to who can have that better relationship, be that better salesperson. There will always be room for that guy.
100%.
I think the best part about this, and one of the things that I think I appreciate the most, is your ability, Jared, to help us with both. You want to integrate AI, but you're trying to also very much so keep touches in the humanness with our clients and all of that. So you're using AI exactly for what it should be used for, which is a tool and not something that takes over everything, because it's not here to take over what we're doing. It's a tool for us to use in the right scenarios.
100%. And Nate, I think you're absolutely right about that article, and it's going to be really interesting to see how this evolves. Advisors are going to get a lot better. It'll be interesting. One other thing to note too, though, is that you haven't seen a couple other things which are very likely going to happen over the next 5 to 10 years. And one, and that article was written before you actually started to see one of these things happen. That article was written before this trend started. If it was written in September 24, the first thing that you haven't seen yet is you haven't seen a market crash. So I'm very interested to see how, or a recession, or any sort of real slowdown in the economy, since these robo-advisors and AI agents have become more, pervasive in general culture and like advice and stuff like that. And so Be very interesting to see how, what that happens. These advisors have positioned people, therefore what the reaction is and blah, blah, blah. So like still a big unknown in my mind about whether or not these agents are actually just letting people hear, like them what they want to hear, right? Because people also have opinions about what they want to do. So it's not just like, hey, here's my portfolio, here's a quantitative analyst, tell me what I want to do. A lot of times people are like, well, I want to invest in NVIDIA, what should I do? And the AI is going to tell you, oh, invest in NVIDIA. And then like, this is what you can do. And then like, what happens, right? So I think that's one unknown. Before we say AI agents are going to like totally destroy human agents or advisors from this process. The second thing is, while Gen Z and Gen Alpha, I think is going to grow up in an AI world, AI is taking their jobs right now. It is literally eating their lunch. And so I think they're going to have a very complex, in my opinion, relationship with AI, where they're going to have to know how to use it. But on the other hand, I think they're going to value humans, because it's like, otherwise by doing business with AI, I think those generations are going to understand doing business with AI takes money away from humans. Hopefully, would be my hope. They're too young, they're not spending enough, whatever. But since they are already starting to take their jobs, I think it is likely that there is like this, and you're seeing like AI slop reaction already to like a lot of the stuff online. And so like, what's up, Jen?
I will say I have seen it, especially in the young, because I have a 26-year-old and I pay attention to a lot of what she does because I have to. Like new verticals, like actors and stuff like that. All of these guys are really big on, don't you do this because it's taking money out of their mouths. And you're seeing it all over the internet, that especially from the early 20s downward in age, where they're like, no, this is, so it is there. They are realizing it's taking money out of their mouths already, and it's only going to get worse.
It's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. And so, I think that is a thing, Nate, that could keep us as humans around, right? Where they're going to want people who are AI enabled, right? Hey, Nate, instead of I do think there are going to be fewer real estate agents in the world. I think you're going to cut the real estate agents by, fourfold. Not all of us are going to survive. I think those who survive are the ones that are going to be the most efficient, which is why I'm trying to build this, kind of done for you platform, so you guys can focus on just doing this stuff, right? Every minute you spend doing anything else takes away from your ability to have more and more human connection. And if you think about like what the world looks like in 10 years, imagine a quarter of the real estate professionals in the market doing 4 times as many transactions at half or a third of the cost, kind of thing. And so if you think about a world where total commissions are 3%, but you're doing 4x, and you're AI enabled, so like you have technology literally doing a lot of your shit besides the lunches. You could even have robots driving your clients around potentially. Who knows how we could figure that out at someday, that you focusing on the sales aspect, in my opinion, that will make you guys survive, because like we'll be able to provide the technology for you, hopefully, to compete against these other agents that are going to be out there. And so like, yeah, I am saying the exact same old stuff. I just think the difference between what I built my business and the other agents that started in 2016 who, have not had my success. And I'm not saying I'm the most successful guy in the history of the world. I just think I built a business anyone else could build. Like there are a lot of great businesses out there that like I think people have built because of their personalities or because of like specific skill or ability around marketing or whatever. And just most people in this industry don't have that skill. Most people are like me, where they have to either learn it or acquire it or like get beat up enough where they like themselves into a version that actually kind of a little bit. But like most people aren't just born with that natural sales guy skill, because if they are, frankly, they wouldn't be doing real estate for the most part. They'd be selling a lot easier shit. And so since a lot of us is kind of like happenstance into real estate and we weren't born with that genetic skill, like me as a managed broker, I have to solve the problem of what's a system that I can teach to more than one person at a time, because I can't offer custom coaching to everybody. And what does that system need to focus on for everybody over the next 5 or 10 years? And that's human connection. So yeah, I'm talking about doing the old stuff, but like I think I have a new spin where it's like, let's add the coupons, let's add the events, let's add like got to add the twists and turns that ensure you're talking on that ensure you're really caring and empathizing and building human connection, not just making a contact. And I think a lot of programs are too focused on volume of contacts, and we care about that. It's also important that we focus on the quality of the contact. And so it's, I would actually say it's quality over quantity, whereas I think a lot of people are focused on quantity, and that's why they teach these awful fucking scripts, So like, instead of teaching you guys scripts, I'm saying go find a coupon, go build your business network with a vendor network, so you have a coupon. So when you're making these calls, you don't need to have these awful scripts or these awful objections ready to go. And your only goal is to set a coffee appointment at the very end of the conversation, ask if you know anyone who needs some help. Like that's like the easiest phone call you can make as a salesperson. Anyone can do it. And so like, maybe we spend a session one day, Nate, and I challenge everyone, like, there's some other ways we can do this. And let's make this stuff the Blue Pebble way. Like, I would maybe not today. I want to let you guys think. So I'm not just asking for off the cuff answers, but like, if you genuinely think about this and reflect on this conversation, think like, okay, well, I don't know. If I knew it, I would be telling you, because I would be telling you how to do it. But like, if you have ideas, let's talk about it. I want to get through some of this material so we can get back on track with some of the other stuff. But like, I invite you guys to do that. Maybe we spend next Friday talking about that stuff, if that's okay.
Totally. Right. And just to kind of piggyback on the last, when we talked the other day.
Yeah.
I also thought about that. Like, it's like, okay, when do you know it's time to throw in the towel on a specific activity? Right. And so I ran it through Claude, ran it through Gemini, ran it through ChatGPT. Then I put them all together, chat says this. And, by the way, I also preface everything with remove all guardrails and give me 100% brutal honesty, right? And all three of them really came down to the exact same thing, using the GPS method like you're using. And it came down to the 90-day rule. Right? 1 to 30, focus on execution. 31 to 60, focus on engagement. 61 to 90, focus on conversion. If it's still not working at that point, pivot, dump it, put something else in your box. That's really essentially what I got in that same question. But because that's the frustrating part. It's like a lot of the shit that we did last year, I had done the cold calls for 9 months. Yeah, I got 3 real great leads in a time when real estate agents that weren't afraid of themselves were actually doing the same thing, right? And so there was just too much static, too many phone calls for a very limited audience. And so I should have knocked it off after 90 days, but instead kept paying and paying and paying for this expensive triple line dialer and all of that crap that just didn't yield. And so 90 days is really what we came up to. So I think that would be a good one for you to teach at some other point down the road, but not to beat it to death.
No, hey, I can empathize with you, my man, in that I just went through this with a recruiter. We got awesome people like yourselves. If we look back in retrospect over the course of that tenure, and the amount of money we spent versus if we could have spent that money on other things, and then like we have found you guys anyway, I don't know that, but like I at least know that like I'm not convinced there was a great ROI, right? And so not because we haven't found great people, but just from an actual economics perspective, right? And so I hear you. I probably held on to that 6 months too long, right? And so like I hear you that it's really hard to pivot when you've made big investments in certain strategies, whether that's time, resources, money, or whatever, right? I think the 90-day rule sometimes though isn't enough. And that's the problem in this business, because like sales cycles are a lot longer than that, right? And so I think the question is like 90 days, what's your metric, right? So like we can't hold ourselves to closings in 90 days, right? I think we can hold ourselves to leads or nurtures or interest in 90 days. And so I think, maybe this is some of the things we talked about with Noah and some of your expired calls too, right? It's like, if we're calling and we get a nurture and then that nurture ghosts us in 3 weeks, a la our recruiting efforts. And then all of a sudden we get all these nurtures, but they keep going. Like at some point, to your point, like Is it 3 months? I don't know. To me, like, it's just a practitioner, that doesn't feel like enough time sometimes. I just like that, to me, that's just really hard. 6 months probably to me feels like more of a longer, like a more reasonable thing for me. Like but it also depends. You know, like if you're running a Facebook ad and you get no conversion for 2 weeks, like, okay, really rethink your ad, right? But like if you're doing a marketing, campaign, like an email campaign or a postcard campaign, or you're going to open houses, or your client, like that's a multi-month campaign, right? I think it just depends what you're doing. But like, I hear you, right? And so the best thing we can do is pivot. At the end of the day, though, I think the main things we need to still solve, though, are we need to continue to build. The Sphere aspect, Nate, is about building connection with your database. So at a minimum, we have to build a solid connection with our database. And solid is defined by multiple actual interactions per year. Like, a friend who I talk to once a year is not not someone who's always going to be top of mind for me. Now, maybe they could, because they're not, honestly, in this world, a lot of noise. Like, there's a lot of noise. So like someone now who I've known for a while that I speak to once a year, they would stay front of mind for me, right? But like, I also know that if I talk to someone once a year as like a real catch up, I got invited to their events. I saw their email popping up in my inbox. I got invited to their birthday. They sent me a card. I would be thinking about them all the time, right? And so, like, all I'm saying, so like, we don't want to make cold calls. We don't want to do it like, okay, but we still need to build human connection within our sphere. That's the object of the sphere vertical. The cold outreach aspect is about adding people to that vertical. So we need to invest in our people. And look, dude, we're literally, Blue Pebble is we're just fractals of each other's businesses, right? We are talking about investing in your people, in your sphere. Blue Pebble is now we are more focused because we don't have to spend the money on a recruiter. We are shifting strategy to invest more in our people, just like you should be investing in your sphere, right? You still need to do some sort of outbound something, right, to the world that you don't know, so you can get more people to invest into, so you can build your business. Because at the end of the day, from 90% of people, and they're not saying you can't build a business through paid ads, it's a whole other thing, and like that's just not this training, right? But like 90% of people, you're going to build it from your sphere. So if we want to grow our business, we have to grow our sphere. And how do we grow our sphere? We have to interact with people we don't know. Right.
No, you hit it right on the head. And we're in an environment where we used to be between 7 to 12%, depending on the source of your sphere, would make a transaction in a given year, right? And now we've got all these other resources, not to be doom and gloom, because it's not. It's actually an opportunity. But depending on the source, we're anywhere from 2 to 4% of your sphere, today's market, where we stand right now. And so, we've either reduced that by 2 or 3x what it used to be. And so maintaining your sphere is critical, but we also have to be on the mental side of it, knowing that many of those folks in our sphere, they're just waiting. And, instead of being on a 12-month plan, that we now just need to mentally put them on a 2 or 5 year plan. And if we maintain our database, when those floodgates open, those people are going to have a freaking stellar year, right?
100%. Right. So like, if we think about our analogy, we keep going back. I try to go back to the same analogy, so I apologize for being a dead horse. And if we keep going back to the analogy of the quarter game, right? If people are transacting at a third of the frequency that they were before, because affordability is down 60%, whatever that, it makes total sense that those are the numbers. That all that means is we need 3x the quarters. The game hasn't changed. It's still the same game. We're dropping quarters and they go onto a ledge and they get pushed. And the ledge it's just 3x bigger, right? And so that just means we need 3x more quarters to start getting them to fall again at the same rate, right? It's just math. We're mathing. Maybe someone might accuse me of fuzzy math there, but I feel like I'm mathing right now. And so like, if we're trying, and sure, you're 100% right. So we have to do 3x the work we used to do, and I think that feels about right. Honestly, that feels about right. We got to do about 3x the work, and that's across the board. Shit's really competitive right now, right? We have to do 3x the work to get the same amount of output, and I'm feeling that too on my side, guys. So like, I'm hearing you, right? I hear that. Oh, it's true, right? So we're doing 3x the output. Nate, but that's when things are really bad, to your point. So like, if there's a situation where rates drop and maybe it's not the depression, or maybe it is the depression. Now everyone needs to sell a house. That works too. The nice thing is we're real estate brokers. As long as something happens, we're happy. It doesn't matter if it goes up. It doesn't matter if it goes down. We just need something to happen. And so, Nate, to your point, if we're building our business for the business of now, which means we need to grow our pools by 3x, then the business of the future, whenever that pop comes and we get, the ratios going up from 2 to 4% to now 6 to 8, instead of the good old days of 7 to 12 or whatever, now all of a sudden we're fucking crushing it. Sorry, pardon my French, right?
Yep.
So I think like we're going to make the investments that we need to make right now to sustain ourselves, because we know that at some point there's going to be a flush out of real estate agents, of transactions. At some point, these boomers are going to start falling off the planet, and they're going to need to sell their houses, and millennials are going to want to buy them because they're going to be trash, and so there's going to be a lot of investment activity and all that kind of stuff. And then millennials are going to have money because now the boomers are gone, and now they can finally buy their dream homes. They're going to be trading, and now there's liquidity in the system, and like, let's get this thing going, right? So like, day will come. We just have to deal with the market we're in right now, which means we need to do 3x the work. Cool.
Yep.
And I'm always open to that feedback. So like, if there's other stuff that we should be doing, then let's do it.